Good afternoon, everyone. My name is John Morgan. I am proud to be the host today of 2020's Designing, Selling, and Profiting from 2015 K&B Trends. It's an awesome event, and I have to tell you that I am just absolutely blown away by how many people were attending. I believe we had almost 1,300 registrations. That's pretty good when you consider that we did a webinar just a little bit over a month ago, and we had almost 1,600 registrations. That means almost 3,000 kitchen and bath professionals, professional designers have attended our last two sessions. So thank you for dedicating your time. We're really proud to be able to present this type of material to you. This particular webinar really excites me. Everybody likes to see trends. Everybody likes to know trends because we all know that part of being successful in our business is being able to direct or guide our clients to the trends or the things that are going to make them the happiest with their projects, because at the end of the day, we want them to be happy customers. Well, this time, we're going to take a little different track to this. We're not just going to be talking about trends. We're going to talk about how to take those trends and use them in your designs. Now, as we get started, the first thing I want to ask everybody is, are you using Design 11 yet? Design 11's been out for a few weeks now, and I would love to do a quick poll and see who in our audience is already downloaded, using, and getting the benefits of V11. So let's give you just a second to do that. And while we collate or tabulate your poll, I'm going to move on to the next page and start my trends reports. Now, as we begin in the trends, a lot of times when you attend trend survey webinars or you read them online or such, they're talking about a single source. We wanted to do this a little bit different. Oh, hold on just a second. I have the trend results here. It looks like 31% of you are currently using V11 and 68% haven't downloaded yet. That's actually a really good number, 31% this quickly. That's pretty awesome, actually. So hopefully the other two-thirds of you who haven't downloaded and started using it yet, when you see what we're going to do at the trends today, you'll be downloading and starting to benefit your business with V11 right away. Now back to the reports. I mentioned that you typically have just one service providing you trends. Well, in order to prepare for this, I wanted to take a little different tack. I know that multiple organizations do trend surveying. I was interested in seeing where they were alike and where they were different. And so what we did was we looked at NKBA, we looked at houzz, and we looked at HGTV. And I thought it was a great spectrum because if you start with NKBA, they actually are reviewing results from you, from professionals in the business, the people that specify. houzz actually does a combination of consumers and professionals, and HGTV is really interested in the consumer end. So I thought it gives us a broad spectrum of what professionals see, a cross-section of professionals and consumers, and then what the consumers are actually seeing on TV. Now, when you take a look at these three trends, and I'll show you what each of these, where I drew this from, and it was interesting because when I started to do my research, I am most familiar with the NKBA trends. I've used them year after year for many years now. And so I used the NKBA 2015 Kitchen and Bath Style Report. For houzz, when I did my research on Google, these are the first three that popped up. And when I hit houzz, I used their Trend Watch 13 Kitchen Looks Expected to be Big in 2015. That's by Natasha Soroka, I believe is how you pronounce that, or Soraka. And then the last trend setting I used was HGTVs, and this is by Karen Buerlein and Camille Smith. This is the 17 top kitchen and bath trends. All of them are recent. Now, when we start to run through, there's a lot of things that aren't going to surprise you. A couple that will, but most of them aren't going to surprise you. Again, everybody who's on this call, we're professionals in the business. So we're seeing this every day, but it's nice to see, I guess, validation for what we're doing and the expert advice that we are providing to our clients. First of all, in NKBA, and I'm going to read through these real quick. If you give me just a second, I'm not going to show any pictures. I'm just going to read through the trends, compare them a little bit, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to highlight alike trends between the surveys, and then I'm going to start showing you results and pictures and how to use them in your design and your selling tools to your consumer. NKBA, clean, contemporary with fusion styles and colors. No surprise there. We all know that for 3 years, maybe even 4 years running, traditional has been falling by the wayside. Transitional has been quite dominant, and contemporary/modern has really taken off. I have been in the business since the early 90s, and I have heard year after year after year that modern and contemporary were going to grow, and they never did. We actually have solid numbers showing that contemporary and modern are growing in every market today. European style cabinetry, again, going with that contemporary modern look. Multiples of appliances in one kitchen. People may have 2 dishwashers in their kitchen or 2 of other devices, and I'll give you some examples later. Steam ovens are hot, hot, hot. I can tell you I have a good friend in the business who does steam oven classes for professionals. I've seen him at Dwell, seen him at KBiz, and you can just see that this is a really fast-growing trend. Furniture look pieces. You're actually going to see this in houzz results as well, but lots of focus points in the kitchen where we're putting cabinetry or even islands on legs. Again, I think this is a really cool look. It's something I would do in my own kitchen. I'm not sure that my family likes it, but I will tell you that personally, I like the furniture look for an island. Outdoor kitchens are growing, not just in markets that you would think. A lot of people think outdoor kitchens. They're thinking of southern, warmer markets where you have year-round outdoor use. I can tell you I live in the Baltimore, Washington, D.C. area, and we did a kitchen a couple years ago up in Reading, Pennsylvania, not exactly a tropical area, and they had an outdoor kitchen, had 35 cabinets in it. I mean, it was really an outdoor kitchen. Kitchen tables being replaced by counters or tall gathering areas. Again, I can relate to this. I'm one of those people that likes to stand and eat. When I have meetings with my assistant, Jake, we're often at a tall table or tall stand with our laptops, and we meet and discuss things standing. You're seeing that becoming more and more popular in kitchen environments. TVs and docking stations, again, growing. I'm sure that will transition as our technologies change. Wine refrigerators, and focus on user experience. I'm actually going to focus on user experience in multiple ways today during this webinar. So I can use that. I think that can actually include lots of different things in your presentations, whether it's using appliances with new technologies, or it's inserts and cabinets and better storage areas, or just the way the kitchen's set up to give you a better experience. There's all sorts of things that can go in under that category. Let's take a look real quick at houzz. Furniture style design features. Again, if I circle that, you look over here where it says furniture look pieces, same thing with NKBA, but that's actually at the top of their list. Airy open shelving. We're all seeing that. You'll see in the list in a moment, less wall cabinets. Again, that modern, contemporary look, that more European flavor than maybe we've had in the States in a while. Wallpapers that wow. I'm going to show you some textures later on that we can use in what I call wallpapers, or what they call wallpapers that wow. But I will tell you, when it looks at wallpapers that wow, it's just a texture. And I'm going to talk about textures for backsplashes, for brick, all sorts of different functions that you can use. We'll also look at the modern traditional style. To me, modern traditional style simply means that it is transitional. We're simply talking about transitional. Ceilings that make you look up. You'll see some of the drawings, some incredible ceilings, but a lot of them that are using LED lighting to highlight the ceiling areas as well as other areas of the room. Luxe metallics. Big fan of the Luxe Metallics right now, and you'll see some pictures later on where the lights, even the counter surfaces, are high polished metallics. One of my favorites is Touch Me Textures. The Touch Me Textures, and over the weekend I actually was at a showroom opening and saw this great kitchen display, and it was a raised textured melamine mixed with I guess a brushed oak. And when you brush the oak and you pull the grain out of that, again, that really hot. You just want to walk over and kind of rub that with your hands. Still a big feature in kitchens today. Beautiful black. Now, it's funny because when you look at the trend surveys in details, which we will in just a moment, when you look at them in detail, there's a lot of white, a lot of gray, but as you look at the numbers, black is really making a comeback, especially mixed with the other two colors. Minimal wall cabinets, I mentioned that before with the open shelving, repetitive patterns, whether it's patterns for backsplashes or wallpapers. Tribal-inspired tones. I'm going to show you a picture of this later on too, but as much as we're seeing white, we're actually seeing in some of the design some interesting colors being added, some earth tones and so forth being used to paint the walls. You know, when I think of white, I'm definitely much more of a contemporary guy. I want, you know, glossy white. I want white floors. I want white everything when I'm thinking about white. But you see there's actually a lot of color being added to our white kitchens today. Vertical joint wood paneling, groove paneling on the ends of islands, not on doors. We all saw that the groove center panels on doors a number of years ago just died off, almost died off completely. These V-groove paneling isn't making a comeback in doors, but it is at the end of the island or on the back of an island. So we're showing shaker looks, but we're putting V-grooves in on the islands themselves. And then shaker style, which I just mentioned. Let's just do a quick run through of the HGTV, and then we'll get into the pictures. Gray is the new white. We all know that. Gray has been growing now for more than 4 years. Typically, gray started off maybe 5 years ago, about 5% of designers were speccing it. Typically, you'll see something in a trend go from 5% to 30, 40, or 50% in a year or two, and then it drops right back down to that 5% total where it was. This is more than a trend. This is actually staying, and you see that the cabinet manufacturers and other materials have invested a lot of money in multiple grays because no one sees that going away. Opt for new functionality, inserts and so forth, and I'll give you some great examples of that. Again, the classic black and white palette, fresh hues for sinks, all sorts of wild colors in sinks today. And again, this is what HGTV is pushing or putting out to the public. Choose bold fixtures, contrasting light and shadow. We're going to talk more about lighting later. Maximizing storage, again, talking about inserts inside of cabinetry. Add in automation, and that could be automation from everything from a soft close or an automatic open to automation within your appliances. Again, appliances going to commercial grade, bigger, more commercial type of appliances. Here's one of my favorites, quartz. When we go back to the NKVA survey, there's actually only one type of countertop even listed anymore in growth, and it's quartz. I mean, it's just blowing everything out when it comes to growth. Mixing countertops, wood, quartz, and so forth. And then a couple of other flares they have, timeless farmhouse flare, contemporary combo, which simply means contemporary kitchen and maybe an old warehouse with a brick wall, having a flexible palette, and opting for architectural lines. We'll get into all of these later as we start to see what's alike within the trends. So that's a great comparison of industry experts, a combination of industry experts and consumers, and what the consumers are actually seeing. So let's move on to our first one, which I want to talk really about designing and selling with the trends. Now, when we move into designing and selling with the trends, let's take a look at what's alike within our surveys. So the first thing I want to focus on is colors. Color, color, color. When you go in and you really drill down into the numbers, you're going to see things that certainly aren't going to surprise you, except maybe the black. You'll see that grays are the fastest growing trend, and you'll look over here on both color schemes, and even when we get into the cabinet finishes, grays, whites, and off-whites as fast-growing trends. But you'll also notice that there's a three-way tie down here between like a beige, a bone, and blue. I'm sorry, I said bones, black and blue. And you'll also notice that black is making a comeback from some of our other surveys. Here's houzz. Black is beautiful. Tribal-inspired tones. And you'll see the earth tone that I was talking about just a moment ago behind our very contemporary white kitchen. And even if you take a look at HGTV, what are they talking about? Gray is the new white and classic black and white palette. Well, how do we show that to our client? Because our client is seeing this, we're recommending it. How do we actually demonstrate that to our client? Let me show you a couple ways to do this that are pretty interesting today. Number one, I have a kitchen. It's a very, very traditional looking kitchen right now, as you'll see. It's starting to render it, going through the steps and rendering. Usually it takes about 20 seconds to fully render this. But I want you to notice it's just a plain old cherry with a medium stain. This could be anybody's 1995 kitchen. So let me flip up here. Let's go into my plan, and let's talk a little bit about some of the capabilities that we have today. First of all, let's say that our manufacturer uses Sherwin-Williams, and we want to paint the kitchen a Sherwin-Williams gray. All we have to do today is to right-click on the plan and go to what's called Global Attributes. Now, again, what you're watching right now, because we may have 2020 users online with us. We may have non-2020 users on there. All are welcome. We're trying to provide trends to the entire community. For those of you that are 2020 users, I am using V11, the latest update from 2020. For those of you that are not 2020 users, just follow along with me and you'll see what the capabilities are and maybe some items that can help you in your business. So once I enter into the global attributes, which means change everything, I'm going to go into Sample F Catalog, which is the cabinet manufacturer that I happen to use, and I'm going to pick one of the wood tones, let's just say the molding texture. When I click on that texture, you'll see right here that it'll come up and it'll give me my molding texture, and it's wood. If I scroll up in my list, I'm going to come back here and say, let's use paint instead. I'd like to use Sherwin-Williams, and I'd like to use a cool neutral because whites and grays and so forth are really popular. We have Sherwin-Williams, agreeable gray, amazing gray, analytical gray. I can change to further down in the alphabet and choose cyberspace as black or Chelsea gray or whatever it's going to be. I'm going to come up here. There's one that I like to use, which is the aloof gray. I'm going to click on aloof gray, and let me, for you 2020 users, let me teach you a little trick. When I want to change multiple items to be the same color, what I do is I simply highlight the color code at the bottom, and on my keyboard I hit Control-C. That copies everything. Now, I'm going to paste that into some other areas in just a moment. Before I do so, though, I did want to mention that you can actually take the paint and say, I want it to be eggshell or semi-gloss, or I could choose glossy. And if I click on glossy, you'll actually see it becomes reflective. So when we really do move into those modern colors, you are working on a slab door, it is a Ferrari red color, and you need it to be glossy. That's the downtown kitchen you're working on right now. You can click on glossy, and it will be really glossy. It will actually reflect everything else in the room just like it would in real life. Now, I'm not quite going that modern, so I'm just going to go back to flat gray. We're going to go ahead and click OK, aloof gray, and you'll see that this has changed to aloof gray. If I want to take my other wood tones and make them aloof gray, all I do is highlight them and hit Control-C, and that becomes aloof gray. Let me do that again. I did the wrong thing. Let me go back up here and get my paint again. I said Control-C. I meant to hit Control-V, so just bear with me just 1 second. We'll go back into Sherwin-Williams, back into our cool colors, aloof gray, and I will copy that one. There we go. And now I'm back on track. So we'll go back in here, and I'll say Control-V, which is paste. And then I'll choose Control-V again, which is paste. And then one more time, I will hit Control-V, which is paste. And then we'll go ahead and we'll take a look at our kitchen. Now remember that 1995 cherry mid-tone kitchen I just showed you a moment ago? As it starts to draw it, it's now gray. And it's not just gray, it is Sherwin-Williams aloof gray. So as I scroll in real close here, let's look over top of my artichokes. We'll come down here. I'm just going to highlight this one area and watch as it changes and it paints my kitchen. By the way, you might notice that I have levitating artichokes. I have a sink hovering above my countertop or where my countertop should be. We're going to place countertops in a little while, so I just want you to be aware that they are purposely levitating in my room right now. So there's my aloof gray. Let's say that you wanted to incorporate black. Remember we just said black is one of the fastest growing colors? Well, I can zoom in right here and say, all right, let's take this sink base 36. We're going to double click on it, and I don't want the sink base to be gray. I want it to be black magic, which is a color by Sherwin-Williams. I'll go into variables. I will click on texture, and then when I click on texture, I hit the wrong button. We'll hit texture. I'll say door texture. I would like this to be, and give me just 1 second, I can hear my speaker is on. Let's silence that so you don't hear the beep as I'm doing it. So we'll come down here, we'll say Black Magic, we'll click OK. I can go through and pick the next one, and I can say I want that to be Black Magic. Again, if I want to take the shortcut, I just highlight it, hit Control-C to copy. We'll come back down here and choose the last one, and all I do is I highlight the color code, hit Control-V, which takes me right to Black Magic, and then I click OK. Maybe even I want to make the end panels Black Magic. So I'll go to the end panel right now, which is just a flat white color. I'm going to go up here and say, let's make that black too. It's right next to my dishwasher, so I'd like to have a black panel there. So we're going to go ahead and click OK. If we come through one more time and take a look at this, you'll see that I have an aloof gray kitchen with a Black Magic sink base. All of these colors are based in Sherwin-Williams. Now let's come back out of here and let's change. And I want to go to our next feature in our trends. And I'm doing that a little bit quicker. We're going to come back and look at that cabinet in just a moment. I want to run through because we got a lot to talk about this afternoon. Let's talk about the next set of trends that are alike. Focus on the user experience, opting for new functionality, maximizing storage. And when you take a look at this, you'll see how important in all the surveys storage, all the accessories are in a room. That's becoming bigger and bigger every year, not just traditional, but more modern looking. And I'm going to give you a few examples of all of these, how you can demonstrate them to your client. Because again, you know, when your client comes to you, they have ideas of what they think they need, but we're the experts. So it's important for us to share what the trends are, what our recommendations are, and help the client who has a billion things coming at them, a billion ideas that they've researched, help them focus them on the few items that are actually going to make them happy with their project at the end of the day. That's what we're there for. So I'm going to show you some items where we can actually demonstrate and show them what the utensils, what the storage items will look like in their kitchen. So if we come back over to my plan live, we'll go back into my 2020, and I've left this open. And before we do anything else, I'm going to double click on this base 15 because I want to give you a before picture. I have a base 15 that is an aloof gray. It is a base 15 hinged right. So if I went to variables and I went to the angle button, I could open this door up, and you will see that the door is hinged right. We will cancel that. I'm going to go back now, and I'm going to change my catalog. Right here is where we find our catalogs. Now, you'll notice in my 2020, not only do I have generic catalogs, like I have the generic cabinet catalog that I was just using, but I have tons of brand-specific catalogs, too. If I scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll see that I have Revachel and Richelieu. If I choose Revachel and say I would like to add an accessory to that cabinet right there, I'd like to add a wastebasket. We'll choose wastebasket. I'm just going to take a standard 5149 series. I'm using their nomenclature. I want one with a door and a drawer, so I'll double click on it. And let's scroll down and we'll find one for a 15-inch item. So I'm going to click on this. I'm going to drag this over and simply drop it on top of that cabinet. Now, once I dropped it on top of the cabinet, watch what happens when I go to the base cabinet. Looks the same, doesn't it? No different, except there is one difference. The door is no longer hinged. It's a pull-out door. I'm going to go to variables, going to go to angle, and we're going to open that door. Now there's a wastebasket in it. It's not just any wastebasket. It is a Revachel 5149-15DM-1SS. It's a real product. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. Let's do the same thing with the sink. Except this time, instead of putting a Revachel wastebasket, let's go to a different catalog. Let's go to a Richelieu catalog. And in this case, I'm going to choose something here. So let's say that we're going to choose something for base cabinets. I'm going to choose a Portero system. And if I click on this, let's say we put it on the right. If you look, here's what the Portero system looks like in my upper left-hand corner. I am going to take that, and I'm going to drag it and drop it inside of the cabinet. It says it's different from the catalog I'm already using. That's okay. I knew that. I'm going to double-click on this cabinet now. If I tilt this and look inside, guess what I have? Portero insert. If I wanted to open the door, all I need to do now is go into my angle. I'm going to slide the door all the way over, where I could have just typed in 90 right here. I can click OK. And if we go back and take a quick look at this, again, looking just above my artichokes, you'll notice that I have a nice pull-out, a Portero pull-out in my sink base, and I have a wastebasket pulled out as well. Now, as I let this go for a minute, I want you to pay attention to my rendering. If you look real close, especially on the right-hand side, I don't want to move my mouse right now because it'll stop my rendering. There's like a little round circle on the far right-hand side. That's actually a light that I'm looking through right now. That's a hanging light in my ceiling. You'll notice that there's some little jagged edges on it. 2020, when I first start to render like that, it gives me a decent rendering. But if you let it sit for 15 or 20 seconds, what you might notice is all the lines, just if you pay attention, they go from being a little bit jagged to being straight. It actually re-renders this 5 times before it's done. It will go from putting indirect lighting to direct lighting in to what we call at the very end anti-aliasing, which basically is a fancy term for makes the crooked line straight. And then within that short amount of time, you could have either been working or you ended up with a high-resolution photorealistic rendering. Now, I'm working at a medium mode, but you can always go to a higher mode than that. Let's pop back over to our trends again, and let's see what's next on our trend list. Furniture style. Now, this is really hot. This is something that actually appeals to me, especially in vanities and islands. I really like the furniture look of putting legs, whether it's legs that attach to the side of the cabinet, more like posts, like an H leg would be, or it's really furniture-type feet. It's something that really appeals to me personally, and I'm really happy to see how high it is in appealing within our professional list too. And here's a great example of a furniture-style vanity that's being used as an island. Let's talk a little bit about how we can present that to our client. Again, our role is to help guide our client to what's going to make them happiest at the end of their kitchen, helping give them good advice and so forth. And a lot of times, showing is believing. And it's real important to set that expectation up front. Because even though we might know what it's going to look like with furniture legs on it, maybe our client has a different opinion. I'll talk a little bit more about that in lighting, about setting expectations. But that's what's so important about showing them what they're really going to get. Now, if we take a quick look at this, let me change my view. There's my view. Let's turn around in our kitchen, and I have a little bit of an island here. Not a fancy island. I just put 2 drawer-based 36s back to back, and I want you to notice that they have toe kicks. I'm going to go to our floor plan, and I'm going to make a quick change to that. If I'm going to put furniture legs on these cabinets, the first thing I need to do is remove that toe kick. So if you notice, I double-clicked on the cabinet. I'll simply go in, and I will choose add-ons. I'll go to base modifications, and at that point, I'll say no toe. Toe kick's gone. I can do the same thing on the other cabinet. Double-click on it. We'll open it back up. There it is, no toe kick. I'll say let's turn the toe kick off. I'm sorry, there is a toe kick. We're going to turn the toe kick off, and you'll see no toe kick. I did have a question come in before asking me about modifying the cabinets and so forth. Can you remove toes? You can, but keep in mind that you can only do that in a catalog from a manufacturer where the manufacturer has that as an option. If it's not an option from the manufacturer, you're not going to be able to do it from their catalog. But don't worry about it. If you're going to do it or you're going to custom build something in the field, you can do it through our generic catalogs. You can always mix the catalogs together. Now let's go in, speaking of mixing the catalogs together, let's change our catalog. I'm going to come up here to the Art for Everyday catalog, where I could choose the Adams Woodworking, but let's use the Art for Everyday catalog. Now you'll notice that I use a lot of catalogs, and I do because the majority of the companies in the kitchen and bath industry know that most people are using 2020. So if they want to push their product out into the field, they create 2020 catalogs. And you'll notice here, Art for Everyday has a great catalog from corbels to moldings to mantles, corner posts, Queen Anne legs, bases, legs and posts. I'm going to jump down to the bun feet area. And if I just simply click on it, you'll see a preview of the feet. I just simply click on them, and we'll keep scrolling down, and you'll see lots of different feet available. I'm going to choose the 4.5, though. So if you give me just a second here, let me tell you how I'm going to place this. I'm going to drop this, and as a quick time saver, when I'm placing feet underneath of a cabinet, so because there's a barrier right here, I simply hold the Control and the Shift key down on the keyboard at the same time, and then I drag the foot to be exactly where I want it to be. And let's say we go get another one. I'll drag it over, we'll drag and drop, snap it into place. Now, you'll see that I am not being exact right now because we have limited time together this afternoon. So I have a lot of things to show you. So I'm just manually guessing just about where they need to be. But I think I'm doing a pretty good job at it. And I'm going to do one more foot here at the top. And the reason I'm going to do that is because you can see it from my angle, but I'm not going to put all the feet in. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at this. Now, as you see this, now we're starting to design our kitchen. I'm starting to do our layout. There we go. Give it a second. You'll see that I have added feet to my drawing. Matter of fact, if I wanted to, I could stand down here on the floor and see what my little puppy would see just before he crawls underneath here and gets stuck and begs for me to get him out of there. So you can see underneath of the items as well. That's the type of detail that we have when you're designing. One of the nice things when you're working with the clients, not just showing them the trends, but the ease of which you can move around the room. I'm a big believer in when you're working with a client that you need to constantly move around the room and show them different areas. For instance, I might have had a raised panel on the end of this island, which I think I did before, a raised panel on the end of this island. But if I shift, let me move in just a little bit, but if I were to shift, I can show my client that there isn't a raised panel on the island. We need to point things out like that because they might say, well, you know what, we want raised panels on everything all around the room. Well, the fact that you can move so quickly around the room allows you to demonstrate what you need to your client. Let's go ahead and go back to our trends. Give me just one second. Go back to our trends, and we'll jump into the next slide. Let's see what the next trend is. Quartz surfaces. Quartz surfaces are super, super hot. And let me show you what some of the results are. It's interesting, when you go through the NKBA results, they'll show you what was specified in 2014. 88% of designers specified quartz, 83% specified granite. If you look 2 years ago, granite was a decent amount ahead of quartz. Quartz has passed granite. And then you see other types of materials like solid surface. Solid surface really isn't used a lot in the kitchens today. You're seeing it much more used in commercial applications. But in all of the survey results, there's always what's growing in 2015. In this area, there's only one item listed. It's quartz by a large margin. There isn't even a close second place right now. And you can see this beautiful kitchen here, beautiful contemporary kitchen. I believe this is Caesar stone that they're using here as a great example for countertops. Whoops, went a little bit too far. Let's jump back over to our 2020 and let's talk a little bit about how we would demonstrate countertops to our client. Let me make an adjustment to our view again. So we're going to move up a little. I'm actually going to turn and look back into the room. So let's make a quick adjustment. We're just going to look at it from this angle for right now. Okay? So I have no countertop. We're going to add a countertop. Not just any countertop, we're going to add quartz surfaces because we want to be able to demonstrate what that quartz surface, or if we mix countertops together, what they're going to look like for our client. At the top of the screen under Items is a function or a feature called Countertop Wizard. If you click on Countertop Wizard, it gives you lots of selections. But the first selection is stone. And if I click on Next, you'll see a list of all of our options. Silestone is listed here. Let me click that as my example for quartz. Now, when I click on Silestone, it's going to open up the catalog, and it's going to give me a list of the textures that are available. So you'll see Alpino White, Alteri, Ardent Blue, Atlantis, Bamboo. They're in alphabetical order. I can go all the way down to the bottom, Zionite, Xerix, and so forth. But for today, I'm going to choose Arctic. There's my example of Arctic. If I click on Next, it's going to ask, do you want it to be 2 cm or 3 cm? Now, 2 cm has become very popular in thickness. Matter of fact, a lot of people have actually gone to 1/2 inch material on quartz countertops, and they're using that for surrounds in their tubs and bath areas. But I'm going to go ahead and choose the thicker one. I'm going to choose 3 cm right now for my countertop. And it's going to ask if I want to design it over my existing kitchen, which I do. So you'll see my existing kitchen. I do have one more wall down here, but I've already put a wood natural cherry countertop down there. And that's a great example of one of the popular things. I think it was in the houzz report that talks, it was HGTV report, which talks about mixing materials on your countertops. Now, we're going to go through next and say no backsplash. Then it's going to ask me a couple of other questions. What type of edge do you want to use? I'm going to say I want to use a 1/2 bullnose, or I might use an eased edge. I actually never use a full bullnose just because of the water running down, wrapping around, and dripping down on the top of my beautiful gray painted cabinets. I don't want to destroy the finish on those cabinets, so I want to have a nice clean edge at the bottom. Next, we're going to go in and define our sinks. I've put a sink in the main window area and also one on our island. So I'll click Edit. I'm going to tell it that it is an undermount sink, or I'm sorry, let's choose a drop-in sink. And then we will do the same thing for the bar sink. I'm going to edit this, and I'm going to say drop-in, and let's just make it standard. We'll click Next. There's a couple of other questions it's going to ask that I'll be able to run through rather quickly. We'll be able to go down and simply say Next to whether there's any other appliances, because I already have them placed. Are there any obstacles in the room? I'm going to say no. Do I need to do any additional cutouts for electrical or such? No, I'm good. Do I need to place edging for my appliance? It already indicates where the appliance edge should be. Where do I want to place my regular counter edge? All I have to do is go around the room, click, click, click. I'll just go ahead and do this one as well. And then we'll click Next again. And it wants to know if there's any special notes. I'm good. I'm going to hit Finish. And if we go back and take a quick look at our countertop, there's our countertop. Now watch it render this countertop. Matter of fact, let me move over here a little bit more, and let's get a little closer look to the countertop. So we'll just adjust that just like that. We'll give it a second to render. Now remember my original kitchen? I started not that long ago with like a 1995 square raised cherry with a mid-tone finish on it with no countertop or such. Now I have a Sherwin-Williams aloof gray with a Black Magic sink base with a beautiful pull-out in the sink base, as well as a Rev-A-Shelf wastebasket and this lovely Arctic Quartz Cosentino countertop. It's all pretty easy. Now, I have a couple of questions. I'm going to group some questions together to come in. A couple of questions have come in about catalogs. Where am I getting these catalogs? I assume your question is, where am I finding them to download those? But just in case, let me take both questions, either direction. So drag and drop. When I click on the arrow here, this will show me all the catalogs that I have on my computer, everything from the accessories at the bottom to I can scroll up and find cabinet catalogs. There's Kohler's catalog, Miele, KitchenAid, and so forth for my appliance catalogs. That's one thing that you may be asking. What you're probably asking me is where am I downloading these catalogs from? Well, there's two places. And again, because 2020 is by far the most used software in the industry, most manufacturers in the industry try to create data catalogs because they want their products spec'd and sold in that design community. So if you want to download one of these catalogs, number one, you can either go to the manufacturer's website. Like if I go to Rev-A-Shelf's website, they will have a 2020 catalog in the Rev-A-Shelf website for you to download. Or you can always go to what's called 2020.net. Now, 2020.net is for 2020 users only. If you've never been to it before, you simply come here, put your email address in, and you can create a login. You need your KDCU number from your 2020. But once you log in, it will list the catalogs. You'll be able to go find your Rev-A-Shelf catalog, your Art for Everyday catalog, your appliance catalogs, your Cosentino Quartz catalog. While I've been talking, somebody just mentioned to me that their countertop wizard icon is actually grayed out. What that means is this button right here, which is active for me, is not active for you. That's because you haven't downloaded the catalogs yet. Go to 2020.net, download either generic catalogs or a catalog like Cosentino, and this will become active. Same thing for lighting. Your lighting button may not be active. It may be gray too. That's because you haven't downloaded a lighting catalog. I'd highly recommend that you go in and download the Sensio, S-E-N-S-I-O catalog, and you will be able to use the lighting feature as well. So again, if these two buttons are gray, like my questioners are saying, you need to go to 2020.net and download those catalogs, and they will activate at that point. Now, let's go back over to our PowerPoint again, and let's talk about the next item in trends. And this is what I call in-demand surfaces and textures. When you look at the results from NKBA, houzz, and HGTV, a lot of it is on patterns and using tiling or wallpaper on a wall. And before I go any further, I'd like to ask another poll question real quick. And I'm going to continue talking. I'm going to come back. So just watch me answer the question. Watch me. I'll come back and give you the results in a second. How often do you use tiling in your CAD designs? That's for everybody, not just 2020 users. So if you're using other software out there, let me know how often you actually put tiling in your CAD design. You will have 3 options there, which I do not have in front of me, but I believe it's often, sometimes, and not at all. I believe were the 3 options. If you just take a look at those and let me know, I will read those off to you in just a moment. Now, as we move in, let me tell you a little bit about the trend reports. Number 1, backsplashes are really hot again, especially when it comes to glass and ceramic and porcelain tile for your backsplashes. It's something I really like. I think it allows you to create a signature in your kitchen. But this will just tell you that, you know, I'm not always trendy, but in this case I am. So that's really hot. When you look at houzz actually talks about textures that stand out. Again, to give it your own, you know, thumbprint, to give it your own impression, to give people, show people your own personality. You can take a look at this. Look at this wallpaper on the right-hand wall with the wild texture, and they also have some sort of tile backsplash here. I really like this one down here at the bottom. This is actually using Luxe materials. The gold on the lights, this is actually gold on the countertop. These are things you can do, you can actually present in your 2022. We can show these images. We can put a countertop in and overlay a metallic surface on it if you wish. Also in houzz and in HGTV, they talk about combinations. Here is, again, one of these touch me textures that I mentioned before. I love the brushed open grain wood or the faux looks that can go along with that. And this is one of my personal favorites. If I could move today, I'd love to get a condo and an old loft in the city where I could have brick walls and then a really contemporary look to the rest of the room. We can do that in 2020. And let me show you how you would utilize this trend with your clients. If we go back into our 2020 live, matter of fact, let me go back into my image. Let me turn here, and we're going to look at this wall here. This is where we're going to focus. We're going to focus over here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go back into 2020 to talk about how to add textures. I'm going to double-click on the wall space on the right. When I double-click on that wall space, it opens up an elevation, which I'm going to drag my elevation down so it's in the middle of my screen. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. There's a feature that some of you, and I'm not going to ask for a poll on this one right now, but I bet less than half of you use that if you're a 2020 user. There's actually a feature called Surface. Surface allows you to draw or block in an area that you'd like to apply a surface. So I can say I'd like to apply a surface from here to here to here to here to here to here down to here, and we're going to wrap that up by finishing up right where we started. Now when we finish, if we right-click, it'll actually come up and show us this lovely tile, which looks like it's from about 1980. Well, we're going to change that. As we've continued to evolve our kitchen based on trends and our clients' taste, we're going to change this. We'll go in and click on the texture for this tile, and so there's a preview of the tile. We have lots of generic tiles, but what I want you to see is there is no limit to what you can place there. If your client loved that wild wallpaper we just saw, all you need to do is go to the wallpaper company's website, capture a picture. They usually have thumbnail pictures or so forth of the different textures and wallpapers. Capture a picture of that and save it on your computer. I do that often. If we go to what's called custom material and I click on wizard, you'll notice that when I go in and make selections, I actually keep in my 2020 files a list of folders. I have folders for tiles, for products. I have a folder here called My Textures, which are door samples and flooring and stone walls and wall textures. So if I clicked on wall textures, these are all wallpapers that I have downloaded from something like wallpapers.com or something like that in the past. So let's say that your client wants this bamboo wallpaper. I can click on it and click open. It says, do you want to rotate it? I'm going to say no. Do you want to crop it? I'm going to tell it no. Do you want to change the brightness? I will tell it no again. And I don't need a frame or to blend it. You notice I'm just answering no to all the questions until I get to scale. I'm going to look at this and say, this is 6 inches, that is 6 inches. So my scale is a 12-inch by 12-inch block. When I click on Finish, and we take a look at this, you can even name it if you want and save it. There's my image. There's my bamboo wallpaper. If I click OK and come back in here and take a look at this again, you'll see my aloof gray wall cabinets with my Arctic Cosentino countertop with my bamboo wallpaper. Now, they don't exactly go together, but it's probably not as wild as that tribal goldenrod type of color that we had earlier in that white kitchen from, I think it was the houzz I think it was the HGTV report. Let's go back in here again. Let's change that. Say, I don't like that. All I have to do is double click on it. I can go back to variables. I can click back on the texture. I can go back to custom materials and into wizard again. I'm going to tell it to go ahead and bring up another texture, but instead of choosing one of these wallpapers, maybe I'd like to place a tile, glass tile, which is what I would like to put as a backsplash. My textures. I'm going to go to wall tile. Now, this image right here could be an image that I saved from a tile company's website. It could be an image that I saved from my camera. I took a JPEG image. So let's take the image. We'll click Open. It says again, do you want to rotate it? No. Do you want to crop it? No. Do you want to change a frame or blend it? I'm going to say this is about 8 inches by 8 inches. We'll hit Finish and click OK. And we'll give it a second here. There's my tile. If I click OK and go back and look again, there's my tile. I can pull back just a little bit. I can tilt it. I can move up, tilt it down, and you can get a capture of almost all the things that I've changed in my room. The countertop, my inserts, the paint colors, and even the tile that I put on the wall. So if I know what the trend is, what I could do as a designer is I could actually go and save things that I think are hot ahead of time, so that as I'm working with clients, I can give them multiple selections. I can say, I think that this goes well. I think that we could use this. And I could actually create libraries. So instead of having to hunt and search and everything with the client, I can go in rather rapidly and say, here are the 3 options I think look best. Let's take a picture of it. Let's look at it. Because live engagement always excites a client. They love the fact that you can change it live. They feel like they're part of it, and they're actually making the decisions. They're picking the tile and seeing what it looks like live, whether it's from far away or whether I zoomed in on it and took a look at it. Oops, a little bit too far there. I zoomed in on it and took a look at it. You know, we have the ability to create that type of image very, very, very quickly with them. Let's go back and take a look at what the next trend is. So, in the trends, another like trend, appliances. Appliances are really, really hot right now, especially when you're going into commercial grade and the different automations that have been added into the appliances, or as I call them, smart appliances. And if you take a look here, you'll see a great picture from HGTV, and NKBA is reporting the same type of results. Let's switch over to our plan real quick, and we're getting close to finishing the webinar, so I appreciate your patience. I have a couple more questions just to give you an idea of what we're going to do. I have a number of questions coming in right now. I am going to answer all those questions, but I'm going to do them offline. So once we officially stop the webinar, I'm going to stay online and answer any additional questions you have. Hopefully, I've been covering most of your questions as we're going along. It's kind of hard to do it and read everybody's questions at the same time. So I will do it after we go offline on a live webinar, and I will stay here and answer your additional questions. Let's switch back over to the 2020 just for a moment. I'm actually not going to put an additional appliance in here, but I do want to show you how you get these great appliances. Again, it's by going into either 2020.net to download a catalog, or going directly to the cabinet, or the, in this case, the appliance manufacturer's catalogs. But if you look over here in my catalog area, the drag and drop area, if I click on the arrow for that area, again, we had the Richelieu, Revachel, Art for Everyday catalogs. But as I scroll up, you'll see things like Thermador, Sensio for lighting, Kohler catalogs, Jenner, KitchenAid, and on and on and on. And I'm going to go up here to the, let's go up to the top to the Bosch catalog for just a second. I'm going to go to Bosch. I'm going to go to Cooking. And I'm going to go to Ranges, and let's choose a slide in dual fuel. And I'm going to right-click on one of these so I can bring the image up. And this is what I want to show you. Right now, In my kitchen, I have a fairly bland set of appliances. If I were really designing this for you, I would do this. I'd actually go through and help you select your appliances, and then I would do things like do a zoomed-in view because I want to show you the detail that you have on these appliances. Look at the imagery, the detail. I can tell you what time it is, you know, what the cycle's set on. I can tell you, you know, what the temperature is in the range. But all of these things allow you to create that drawing that you need. Highly recommend that you do that because I'm sure that one of the areas that you get the most questions after the job is, you know, I expected one thing with an appliance and this is what it looks like, or this appliance sticks out further than I thought it was. If we set the right expectations up front by using real materials, that makes us more profitable in the end because we're not having to accommodate customers after the fact when their expectation for whatever reason was not met. Now let's jump back over to our trends, and let's go into what I think is my last trend today, which is focus on the user experience. And in that, I'm going to highlight the LED lighting. So much of, if you read the articles, talks about contrast and lighting and shadowing, ceilings that make you look up. And matter of fact, if I could take one more survey real quick while I'm talking, I'd like to know how many of you use LED lighting in your CAD designs. It's just a yes or no question. Do you use it or do you not use it in your CAD designs? I'll come back and read those results to you shortly. We've been doing this a couple years of 2020. I'm not sure what other CAD software do, but I have a feeling that, that this is probably more of a 50-50 proposition than my other questions were. Just to give you a great example of lighting, here's the ceilings that we were talking about from houzz. Look at the lighting in the ceiling, how awesome that is. I also want you to focus on these circles. See circles right here? These circles are the puck lights for our room, for the ceiling. I'm pointing those out because I have a friend in Virginia who's a designer who had a costly experience where they installed all the LED lightings, and then the customer decided they didn't like the circles. Well, there's a quick and easy way to solve that, and that's to show them what realistic lighting looks like in your presentation so that they have the right expectation up front, and that allows you to make more money in the end because you don't have to replace those lights like he did. It also talks over here, if you look in at the NKVA lighting survey, it basically says LEDs far and away lead to kitchen lighting. It's actually being specified by more than 80% of designers today, and I thought this was a really interesting comment, and a lot of you will recognize this. One of the designers says it comes down to two words, and that is Title 24. So for all of you paying attention in California on the West Coast, Title 24, and you can actually show everyone exactly how their LED lightings are going to look in their rooms. So before I get to my Contact Us page, let me show you one more thing. We got about 5 more minutes to go, and we'll end the webinar there, and then I'll take your questions. First of all, if we come back to our lighting, let me go ahead and close out of this, and let me open up another window. Hold on just one moment. Let me open up another design here. I'm going to go into the with no lights design. This room that I have right here is actually a room where I have removed all the lighting. So if you give it just a moment to build, you will see here that I have a dark room. I've turned out all the lights in the room so that I would have the ability to show what it looks like as I add lighting to a room. Now, I'm going to use simple under-cabinet lighting to begin with. So again, the trend in the industry is LED lighting. Your client is seeing this everywhere. They're asking you about LED lighting, but all they know is that LED lighting's hot. They know it's popular. They don't actually know what LED lighting looks like. That's why they're talking to you. And you as a designer need to help them have the right expectation for LED lighting. Well, if you're a 2020 user, you can simply go up to the tab called Items. You can click on Lighting Wizard. And remember the question I had before about why the countertop wizard was gray? I said it's because you haven't downloaded the catalog. Same answer over here. Why is your lighting catalog or lighting feature gray? It's because you haven't downloaded the catalog yet. So make sure you go to 2020.net and do that. Standard. Oh, hold on one more time. I just got a message to me. Here are the results on lighting. Approximately 40%. It's just a little bit under 40% of you do use lighting in your drawings, and 60% don't. So 6 out of 10 of you working with your client aren't setting the right expectations with how lighting is going to appear in the room. So hopefully after you see this, you'll start doing this in your designs because it's extremely simple. I want you to notice something real quick. See right here I have under wall cabinets and I have a puck light. This actually determines all the different capabilities. I'll show you that in just a moment too. I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to go back into my view and show you what puck lighting would look like underneath of these cabinets. As it renders, you'll see it cleans it up, but you notice all the little circles. I can always expand how far apart the lights are so we have less of those circles, but still we have all the circles there. And just like my friend in Virginia, if you haven't shown this to your client ahead of time, the first time they realize that they hate all the little circles is when they're sitting in their completed kitchen when they should be loving their kitchen, but all they can do is focus on these little circles on their countertops and how much they don't like it. So these little lights could ruin the whole job to the point where they're asking you to change them out. And now you are spending more money than you needed to keep that customer happy. Well, if we had gone in and done the lighting up front with the client, actually let me go through and hit undo. I'm going to go back in here to my items and say lighting. And I'm actually going to choose the premium one because we're running out of time right now. So I'm going to choose premium, which is all the lighting. It's over cabinet lighting, under cabinet lighting, inside wall cabinets, and toe kicks. But you'll notice right here where it says under wall, it says puck. I am going to change that to be a rigid light strip. I'm going to choose the 12-volt, 0.8 watt, let's see which one I have here, the 300 mm, yep. And then I'm going to go ahead and say spacing doesn't matter because it's strip. Dimmable, yes, I want it to be dimmable. And if I click OK, it's actually going to put LED lighting everywhere in my room, and I'll show you that in just a moment. But most importantly, look underneath of my cabinets. I no longer have tiny circles. I have a more consistent lighting, and my customer understands what the difference is between puck and strips. And if I actually zoom back out a little bit, you'll notice that we've put lights above the cabinets, inside the cabinets. I've even put them in the toe kick. If you look down here along the floor as it re-renders, see this little line right here? I'm actually standing on the other side of the window. I did not mean to go back quite that far. So we'll tilt it down and look at our floor, and you'll see that it's even putting lighting in on the floor. It'll eventually clean that up and make it look just as pretty as my gray kitchen did just a second ago. All right. Now let's go back over to our PowerPoint and let's wrap this up. First of all, I want to thank everybody for being with us today. I know how valuable an hour is, and we appreciate that you gave us your hour today. Hopefully you've learned a lot about a number of things. First of all, trends. I think it's good to be able to compare the 3 major trend sources that are out there, everything from professional trends, which is us on the phone through the groups like the NKBA, and then even going to what the consumers are seeing through HGTV, because they're coming to us because we are the experts, and all we need to do is give a guiding hand so that they make the right decisions that are going to help them get that awesome kitchen or awesome bathroom that they're expecting. And then we wanted to show you how to implement those trends in your design to set the right expectations, again, trying to create a happy customer. And of course, if we can show them what they look like in a design, that differentiates us from our competition. So we can actually show customers what they're going to get, wow them, excite them, and hopefully close more sales from it as well. Now, if you're a 2020 user and you have some questions, you're always welcome to call us at 866-698-2020. For those of you that are out there, and I'm sure it's a fair amount of you, that may be using other software, or you may have been doing this by hand, you're really interested in how we're able to incorporate all of this and be able to sell to the client, help you make more money, be more efficient, call us, 866-698-2020. We're happy to help you. We'll help you get set up and working right away. Final slide, and then I'm done. Again, thank you for attending the webinar. I have received a number of messages in the chat room asking me where or if you can download this webinar. Absolutely. You can watch it over and over and over again if you want to. We are actually going to email you this webinar afterwards. So it may take a few days from the time you join us to the time that you get the email, but we will email you a link to the webinar so that you can watch the webinar or share it within your office and so forth. We encourage that. And if you haven't done so already, please join our community. Go to www.2020spaces.com/community. We have one place where professionals in our industries get together and they share ideas with each other. That's the 2020 community. And we will be posting these types of webinars in that community as well. As I started off with, I mentioned that we did a great webinar on the new V11 about 5 or 6 weeks ago. We had about 1,600 people there. Today we have 1,300 people registered for our Trends webinar. We're really building a robust community and sharing lots of great information with each other. Much of what I talk about in my webinars, I learn from you. I learn from the communities. I learn from each other. That's how we all get better together. So again, thank you for joining us today. Please join the community. And if you have any other questions, give us a call at 866-698-2020. Now, I'm going to slow down just for a second, and I'm going to stop so that we have a hard cut as we record this, and then I'm going to stay on the line and take additional questions that you may have live. So thank you all very much, and have a great rest of your day.